Republican Policy Committee. He's Congressman Morgan Griffith. It's great to have you on, sir. Okay, a new day in Virginia. We've got the governor, Glenn Youngkin, sworn in. So is Winsome Sears, the first black Republican elected to high office. But, Congressman, the real thing what's really catching fire is how the governor is moving to get rid of weak-on-crime prosecutors and also the entire state parole board for letting out rapists, murderers, and cop killers without informing the prosecutors about that or the victims' families, breaking Virginia law. Your reaction to this story?
Well, I think it's great. The parole board clearly was doing things that was not legal, were not intended by the laws that were passed by the Virginia General Assembly. And how they were able to get away with it is something that's going to have to be investigated. The governor's already replaced the parole board. He's looking into what happened in the Loudoun County schools in relationship to an individual who sexually assaulted not one but two students there. He's going after CRT. He's doing a lot of things in his very first day, and I expect to see more tomorrow.
Yeah, the new AG, Jason Miyares, is moving fast as well. And the governor is saying, I'm going to stop with the politics in our schools. And, Congressman, we know you're aware of this, too. We've been investigating this, and we've had people on our show talking about how porn has been allowed into school libraries and all sorts of problematic school policies that the Virginia parents have been dealing with. Let's listen to the new governor of Virginia on this. Watch this.
We will remove politics from the classroom, and we will focus on essential math, and science, and reading, and we will teach all of our history, the good and the bad.
Hear, hear.
Did you hear that last part? Keep all the good and
all.
The bad history, right? Go ahead, Congressman. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. I was there to hear that, and I was very proud of that line. We need to teach all of the history, and Governor Youngkin was absolutely right. We need to focus on the very many good things that the state has done, and we need to teach the very bad things the state has done in its history as well.
There's an issue. He's saying the governor's saying with an executive order, mask mandates in schools should be optional, and it should be up to the parents, not the schools, to decide. There's a pushback inside public schools saying we're going to continue ahead with mask mandates. Your reaction to that?
Well, this is going to have to be settled by the courts. There was a bill that was passed by the General Assembly when the Democrats were in control that says that they're supposed to follow CDC guidelines until August of this year. The governor says they didn't do it properly. We'll have to see what the courts say. I'm going to side with the governor on this and hope that the mask mandates go away. That ought to be a parental choice, not something that's decided by Richmond or, in fact, the school boards without parents being heavily involved.
You know, Congressman, we're going to dig into this later in the show. It's a crime issue that's really capturing a lot of people's attention. Here in New York City, a homeless man in the Times Square subway system tried to push one woman in front of a subway. He pushed an Asian American woman in front of the subway to her death. We have that, and the New York mayor, he's supposed to be on tough on crime. He's saying, well, you know, just less than 2% of crimes happen on subways. There's a perception, a quote, perception of fear. After his DA downgraded crime here, felonies like armed robbery here in New York City. So do you think this movement inside Virginia about crime will take hold nationwide?
I do. I think people are worried. We've got a lot of prosecutors who've been elected and supported across the country by very liberal groups, George Soros and others. And they're decriminalizing lots of things that the legislatures across the country, not just in Virginia, never intended to have it decriminalized. They just don't choose to prosecute. That's wrong. And violent felons in particular ought to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Congressman, this is a danger zone for the country when you have the public starting to talk about what politicians, what elected officials, what DAs are doing to us. That's when you really start to divide the country. That's a danger zone. That's the kind of sensibility that was also behind the Capitol riots, right?
Well, there certainly were a lot of danger zones out there, and lack of enforcement of the laws leads to more people feeling like they can break the law.
Yeah, we hear you loud and clear. Of course, the Capitol riots roundly condemned. We're going to stay on all of these stories for our viewer. Congressman Morgan Griffith, thank you so much for joining us. We'll have you back on again soon. Up next, Georgetown health law professor, former FDA official Rick Mehta. The Supreme Court fight over